Generally speaking, the errors in religion are dangerous, those in philosophy only ridiculous. It is possible for the same thing both to be and not to be. No man ever threw away life while it was worth keeping. Be a philosopher, but, amidst all your philosophy, be still a man. He is happy whose circumstances suit his temper, but he is more excellent who can suit his temper to his circumstance. The life of man is of no greater importance to the universe than that of an oyster. Reason is, and ought only to be the slave of the passions, and can never pretend to any other office than to serve and obey them. Liberty of any kind is never lost all at once. Beauty in things exists in the mind which contemplates them. Heaven and hell suppose two distinct species of men, the good and the bad. But the greatest part of mankind float betwixt vice and virtue. The identity that we ascribe to things is only a fictitious one, established by the mind, not a peculiar nature belonging to what we're talking about. In public affairs, men are often better pleased that the truth, though known to everybody, should be wrapped up under a decent cover than if it were exposed in open daylight to the eyes of all the world. Carelessness and inattention alone can afford us any remedy. For this reason, I rely entirely upon them. Men's views of things are the result of their understanding alone. Their conduct is regulated by their understanding, their temper, and their passions. The Old Testament, if considered as a general rule of conduct, would lead to consequences destructive of all principles of humanity and morality. I never knew anyone that examined and deliberated about nonsense, who did not believe it before the end of his inquiries. Beauty is no quality in things themselves, it exists merely in the mind which contemplates them, and each mind perceives a different beauty. Reading and sauntering and lounging and dosing, which I call thinking, is my supreme happiness. The truth springs from arguments amongst friends. When men are most sure and arrogant, they are commonly most mistaken, giving views to passion without that proper deliberation which alone can secure them from the grossest absurdities. No testimony is sufficient to establish a miracle, unless the testimony be of such a kind that its falsehood would be more miraculous than the fact which it endeavors to establish. To be a philosophical skeptic is the first and most essential step towards being a sound, believing Christian. Any pride or haughtiness is displeasing to us, merely because it shocks our own pride, and leads us by sympathy into comparison, which causes the disagreeable passion of humility. The feelings of our heart, the agitation of our passions, the vehemence of our affections, dissipate all its conclusions, and reduce the profound philosopher to a mere plebeian. The fact that different cultures have different practices no more refutes moral objectivism than the fact that water flows in different directions in different places refutes the law of gravity. A wise man apportions his beliefs to the evidence. A purpose, an intention, a design, strikes everywhere, even the careless, the most stupid thinker. To philosopher and historian, the madness and imbecile wickedness of mankind ought to appear ordinary events. It is not unreasonable for me to prefer the destruction of the whole world to the scratching of my finger. It's seldom that liberty of any kind is lost all at once. No conclusion can be more agreeable to skepticism than such as make discoveries concerning the weakness and narrow limits of human reason and capacity. The most lively thought is still inferior to the dullest sensation. The essential passions of the heart have found a better soil in which it may attain its maturity, remain under less restraint and extended into its natural state. If subjects must never resist, it follows that every prince, without any effort, policy, or violence, is at once rendered absolute and uncontrollable. When principles are so absurd and so destructive of human society, it may safely be averred that the more sincere and the more disinterested they are, they only become the more ridiculous and the more odious. Evolutions of government cannot be effected by the mere force of argument and reasoning. The virtues of valor and love of liberty, the only virtues which can have place among an uncivilized people, where justice and humanity are commonly neglected. The more instances we examine, and the more care we employ, the more assurance shall we acquire that the enumeration, which we form from the whole, is complete and entire. A foolish woman doesn't want sex before marriage, but a wise woman doesn't want even marriage. It is an absurdity to believe that the deity has human passions, and one of the lowest of human passions, a restless appetite for applause. The bigotry of theologians is a malady which seems almost incurable.